All right, thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to be talking about the steps from A to Z on how to build your own home for ground up construction. So I'm going to be walking you through all the steps and what you want to do. Now, one thing I will start before I talk about the construction process is some of the design elements you may want to think of before you build your home and kind of go over a lot of the trends we're seeing in real estate now. So right now we're seeing a lot of blues. Blues have become extremely popular for paint colors, and what's really interesting is we're even starting to see blue come into cabinetry color. So if you're looking to build a home and you're looking to stay with the latest trends, you may want to consider a lot of different blues, and of course your grays. That's the most popular now. So here's just some examples of just a blue powder room and just the beauty that blue has. And you notice there the light fixture is a brushed brass with a brushed brass mirror and as well as the faucet. So it's not gold, but brushed brass is becoming really popular. Here, this color is called China Gray, or no, China Rain, I'm sorry. And that's a bluish gray. And then here, it doesn't have a blue island. It's actually a dark gray. It's not a black island. It's just the way that the photo was taken. But you have blue stools there, and that really gives a really beautiful look to that kitchen. This is one of our clients' homes. One little feature that you can see in the top left there, actually the TV is built into the cabinetry. So a lot of times the TV can be tacky in a kitchen. This was tastefully done. Because those are glass there, so it's really a seamless. Most people, if you don't point out that that's a television, they would not even know. The countertops, that's a quartz. Quartz is the countertop of choice at this point. Quartz is extremely durable, very little maintenance. The only downside to quartz is if it's in a lot of sunlight constantly over time, it will fade, but it is even more durable than your granite. Marble is the most beautiful, but marble scratches very easily. It stains if you have wine and you spill it. So quartz is and with the quartz they have these beautiful, if you can see the veins in there, to make it look like marble. Here is actually a blue island. Again, you've got the brushed brass light pendants with the handles. And so a lot of mixing of metals is going on where you can see you've got the stainless steel, which is still okay with the brushed brass. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, what's gained in a lot of popularity is the farmhouse look. This is a white house with black windows. It just has a really great look. You can also do it with white windows as well. But the farmhouse look is really gaining in popularity. This one is in one of our clients' homes in Glen Ellen. And here, again, you can see the black light fixture, and then going out to the outside there just really gives it just a really nice look. So again, I talked about mixing your metals. So this is becoming really popular. Before, consistency in your hinges and your door handles and what's in the kitchen and the bathrooms, a lot of times you are seeing houses having the same metals from everything. Now it's becoming really popular. So many times we'll do themes in certain bathrooms. So one bathroom we may do an oil rub bronze, another one we might do the brushed brass, another one a brushed nickel, and then in some cases we're even mixing the metals within the room. So here you can see those are chrome, and then you've got the brushed brass there with the brushed brass poles. And something I always recommend if you're ever looking to do a double bowl vanity, just like this one, many times the double bowl vanities will have the drawers on the side. They make them less usable. I like having, if you're looking at doing a double bowl vanity, is have a large drawer in the middle. This is a lot more functional. I mean, you can store a lot of things. A lot of times what we do is we'll put an electrical outlet back there, and you can't see it, But now you have a very clean look all the time, and you can have your curling irons, your dryer, everything in the drawer, so everything is neatly kept away. And like I said, brushed bronze is the new gold standard. This is what's really popular right now that everybody's doing. And if you want a really cool look, you can actually match the grout on the backsplash to the, so I'll show you an example. These are, so here you can kind of see it, so it's coming through the projector, but this coloring here, it actually matches. It's hard to appreciate it here with this photo, but the grout actually matches the sink faucet and then the pendants. And it really makes that white tile backsplash, which is really popular right now. A lot of times if you have a white kitchen and you use a white grout, it's almost too white and it gets washed out. So this is a nice way to match it with the metals. And tile selections, my opinion is marble is in my opinion, again this is my opinion, is something that's always timeless. White marble has never gone out of style. Now you may think of like a pink marble, marble can have some color variations. That of course comes in and out of style, but if you have a white marble bathroom, they have lots of porcelains and even ceramics that look like marble now. If you're looking to do a master bathroom remodel, you want to do it now to enjoy, but you're thinking of maybe selling the house in 5-10 years, it's still going to be a timeless look. And you can do it with a less expensive option now with the porcelain option. So this is an example of a marble bathroom we've done. And then there's these tiles are very popular for mudrooms that we're doing. So there you can see it in a mudroom. There's another mudroom that we built. This was originally just a regular coat closet, and there was a closet on the other side. It was not very functional, so we actually made it a walk-in mudroom for this home that didn't have a lot of space. And light hardwood flooring is actually becoming popular again. So it's not so much what was popular before was the dark hardwood flooring, and then gray hardwood flooring started gaining in popularity. And it was not a straight gray, but it was a grayish, but now light flooring is coming, and I really love the way it looks. This is on a brand new construction home for one of our clients. And then you can see there with the coffered ceiling, with painting it black, you get a lot of contrast in that room and really makes it beautiful. So you're seeing a lot of, also, I don't have it in the slides, but a lot of dark bathrooms as well are becoming popular. And the way to offset it is with a very natural colored vanity. So this is kind of what's trendy if you're looking immediately to sell. But again, if you're looking to build the house, you want to do what you like. I just wanted to give some insight on what we're seeing a lot of popularity in. And accent walls are really popular. This can take a very simple room and just make it beautiful. Just with the shiplap, they have the reclaimed wood, of course, is a very, that can become very expensive. So they have Fox accent walls that you can do. Here's an example of it in a bathroom. So let's talk about the actual new construction process. This is whether you're working with a builder or if you're looking to build the home yourself. This is A to Z on how to do it. So number one is finding your ideal lot. Now, there's a lot of things that go into finding your ideal lot. You're going to want to make sure you're working with a realtor or somebody that understands construction, so that way you find the right lot. Because sometimes lots have, they may have limitations on how big of a home, depending on how big the lot is, where you can have your driveway come in. So there's just a lot of different, how is the lot that you find, how is it zoned? Because some zoning, you can only build a home so big, and in other zonings, it's still residential. You can actually build more of a footprint on the same size lot. So there's lots of things to consider when you're looking at a lot. So if you ever put a property under contract, your best thing to do is to run it by a local architect that works in that particular city to make sure that the design that you're thinking of can be built there, and also talking with a build design firm to ensure that the home you really want to build can be built on that lot. Because I've seen it time and time again where people contact us after they already own the lot, and now there's restrictions on what actually can be built. And in many cases you can get variances, but this increases the time, and then there's a chance that you may not be able to get that variance. So it's better to do that homework before you ever close. You want to keep what's called attorney review open. And what attorney review, when you put a property under contract, attorney review allows you to back out of the contract and get all of your earnest money returned. So during the attorney review period, this is the time to make sure that the lot you have under contract you'll be able to build the home that you really want to build, because that's obviously, you don't want to do it after you close and it's too late. So when you're building new construction, you're of course going to want to have a survey. So as soon as you get that property under contract, we recommend getting a survey immediately. There may or may not be a home already on the lot, but the sooner you get that survey, the better. The architectural prints, you may already have a design that you've developed with an architect for that particular city, and the architect might say, this particular design will work for a 25 by 125 lot in the city of Chicago, or this particular design will work for a 50 wide by 150 lot, perhaps if you're in the suburbs. But you also have to keep in mind, if you get the architectural plans first, now you have to make sure that those plans will work for that particular lot. Engineering plans, they're not required in the city of Chicago. I still highly recommend getting them done, because this has to do with the grading. You want to make sure that the grading in the front and the back comes out the way that you want. So even if the particular city doesn't require, you still may want to get your engineering plans. A very important step when you're building new construction is to send letters to the adjacent property. There are requirements on that. It's also a good idea whenever we're building a home, not only do we send letters to the neighbors, but we also introduce ourselves and let them know, because we're going to be bringing in heavy equipment in and out of the community. They have kids. It's important that they know that a very large project is going on, and this is very important. You need to be very, very hand in hand with the neighbors, because neighbors can make your life difficult when you're building a home if they're not happy. So happy neighbors, there's a saying, happy wife, happy life. Happy neighbors, happy life. They can make all the difference. And so we always give the neighbors our personal cell phone. Anything's going on, if they don't approve of, we want them to call us first before they're calling the city or the alderman or whatever the case may be. We want to address that with the neighbors directly, and it's very important to have great relationships with your neighbors. This is where once you have the architectural plans, you're going to start getting bids. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about making your selections, but this is particularly for the city of Chicago, because this is the biggest area, but every city is going to be a little bit different. But you're going to get a contract and letter of intent from your general contractor, your framing contractor, your masonry. The masonry for the foundation and the brick will be, depending on the city, a lot of times they're going to require both of them. The electrician, of course, the plumber, the HVAC, the roofing contractor, the siding contractor. Now, one thing, it's funny, but you actually, when you purchase a home, you actually have to, and you're going to build a home on it, you have to actually set up the utilities before you can deactivate the utilities, because when you're going into building a home from scratch, you're going to, you don't want any active electricity going to the home. So you actually need to activate it to have then ComEd, and if it's Nicor gas or People's Gas, to then cap and that way you don't have any utilities coming to where any digging or anything is taking place. This is very important. Applying for the demo permit if a property is already there. You're going to need to install a construction fence along the perimeter of the, not just the home, but the lot. This is important. So again, kids and people aren't getting into the construction area that can get hurt. You know, again, we're digging holes. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, so you need to secure the job site, make sure that it's safe. Depending on the area, sometimes you actually may have to demo the existing home before you can apply for a new construction permit. So again, every village, every city is going to be different. Give you an example, we've done it where there's an existing home on 2 lots in the city of Chicago, and we could apply for the construction permit on both lots, but it takes a lot longer than if we knock the house down and then apply for both permits, because there's already a home existing. So again, time is money in this business, and especially for you, a homeowner, if you want to move in the next 6 months to 9 months, you need to make sure that all of these things are thought through. Otherwise, a 6-month build can take 2-3 years, we've seen with other people, because they didn't think through a lot of these issues. So you definitely need to think through all of this before you start. Now, the more selections you make up front in the construction process, if you make all of your selections up front, you should have 0 change orders. So this is important if you want to stay within your budget, to have all of your selections made up front. Where things become expensive is where now the framing contractors come in there, the electrician has gone in there, the plumber has come in there, and then the homeowner doesn't like the layout anymore, and then things have to be reconfigured. This becomes expensive because, well, sometimes it's not just as easy as moving a wall. Now the electrician, now the plumber, they have to come back. Same with a lot of the selections. Sometimes if you don't make some of your selections and things are brought to the job site, to then bring it back to the manufacturer, they may charge you a restocking fee. So the more things you have chosen up front, the less change orders, and if you have everything chosen, there should be 0 change orders. So with new construction, you definitely, you have to clear the lot, and depending on the lot, depends on, is there a lot of trees? Trees can be extremely expensive to remove if the larger the trees. Again, this is something a lot of people don't necessarily, they're thinking, oh, we're going to knock down the house. Shouldn't be that much more for the, we've actually had it where just clearing the lot with the trees that were there were more than actually demoing the house. So so that's definitely something you need to do before then you can bring your equipment in to knock down the house. Now the topsoil, you're going to want to strip that and then stockpile it on the lot. This way you have it that you can put it back in when you're finished with the home. Staking the lot for excavation, and then the actual excavation for the foundation. Once you have the foundation and the footings, there's going to be an inspection that takes place. And again, this is more geared towards the city of Chicago because every village is going to be a little bit different. But this is an example. This is actually in the city of Chicago. Usually you don't see this much trees and that sort of thing. This is an interesting story. When we actually did this house, the neighbors came up to us almost crying. They weren't crying, but thanking us, because every time that there was a heavy rainstorm, what would happen is the trees would knock down the power, and then everybody would go out and power. And then what also happened, it literally was almost like a campsite. So that there were, we never saw it, but the neighbors told us at one point that there were people almost like squatters, and they would tent in the area because it was like a forest area within a neighborhood. So again, there's the house with all the trees. There's the backyard. There it's cleared. This is, before even cleaning. There we're starting the excavation. There you can see the footing. So this is when the inspection happens. And then you're going to do the underground plumbing. There's going to be an inspection for that. So what is underground plumbing? That's going to be for your overhead sewer system. That's going to be for your drains for your toilet, your shower. This is all going to feed into a solid waste pump, which then you want an overhead sewer system, so that way you don't have any backflow with sewer backup in the city of Chicago, for example. A lot of people that don't have an overhead sewer system, when their basements flood, it's actually not rainwater, it's sewage water. So overhead sewer systems are very important with a check valve, so that way there's no backflow into your basement. Getting flooded that way is not fun. And then the basement slab gets poured. There you can see there's 2 pits there. So the 2 pits, one of them is for your rainwater. Your rainwater, that's your commonly referred to as your sump pump. So that takes the rainwater and takes it out to somewhere either the front or the back or the side of the house. In the city of Chicago, the sump pumps actually get tied into the sewer system because the houses are so close to each other. So that's why it's interesting in the city of Chicago. Most villages, it's illegal to do that. In the city of Chicago, it is nice because then you don't have water going in front of your house or in back of your house. And if your city allows you to do it, in my opinion, it's a very good thing to do. Then you get the water completely out. And then some of those pipes that are sticking up, that's for the bathroom and the laundry room. So then you start with the framing, and obviously you're going to do the roof, the window installation, and then you're going to have the framing inspected. And then there's a fire stop inspection as well. So what is a fire stop inspection? That's essentially making sure that there's not any gaps, because if there's gaps in airflow, that's a way for fires to burn hotter and get to the upstairs. So there's an inspection for that as well. And again, the city of Chicago does not have a fire stop inspection. Most villages and cities outside of Chicago do. But it's something you should have inspected, of course, because you want to make sure your home is safe. Here you can see some framing starting to happen. That lot that I showed you, on that particular property, we actually built 2 homes there. And then you're going to have an HVAC rough inspection. So you can do HVAC and your drains. You can do either HVAC first or your drains for your plumbing. Either can be interchangeable. Depends on the project and which order we do it. And the reason for that is because the pitch of the drains is extremely important. And then we do the supply lines after the HVAC is done because their pitching is not important. It's a pressurized system. But HVAC obviously takes up a lot of space, and so that's why a lot of times the HVAC is going in, and then everyone can work around the HVAC. And then in the plumbing rough, you're going to be doing your shower, valves, your tubs. You're doing a vertical spa with the body jets. All of this needs to go in. Your rainfall shower head. It's not, the trim parts aren't going to be installed, but all the valves behind the walls are going to be installed. Your electrical rough-in, this is going to be your cans, your conduit that's running. You know, Illinois is pretty interesting. It costs a little bit more to build a home in Illinois than most other areas. Most other areas, they have PEX, which for plumbing, and PEX is a flexible material. Chicago, because Chicago is a very union town, that's why copper is required in most villages, and the city of Chicago is because we have a strong union presence. But when you're building with copper, that's more expensive, and actually PEX is a better product than copper plumbing. It's funny that they don't allow that in most areas. Also, if you think about the conduit behind the walls, most actual states, you only see rigid conduit in commercial construction. they're still using Romex and that sort of thing in most other areas, and it is less expensive. But the one thing I will say is rigid conduit is going to protect, because guys are going to be drilling in the walls and that sort of thing. So just keep in mind it's a little bit more expensive in Illinois. You might see some flipping TV shows and they say they completely redid a house for this price. Well, part of that is also they didn't have to follow a lot of the same codes that we have to follow here in Illinois. So there's just an example of the drains and also copper piping there. There you can see some of the rigid conduit, and then for venting there on the PVC piping. There you can see a shower valve. Depending on the area, a lot of areas require sprinkler systems. So there's of course going to be an inspection for that. A lot of villages are requiring sprinkler systems now. Good thing about that, you do get a discount on your insurance when you have a sprinkler system. A lot of homes that are older don't have them, but for new construction they require the sprinkler systems to be installed. I'll give you an example. In the city of Chicago, sprinkler systems are actually not required for new construction homes unless you have a rooftop deck. If you have a rooftop deck, like we built a home had an amazing downtown Chicago view, and we opted for the sprinkler system because the city allows you to do either a sprinkler system or an exterior staircase to go up to the rooftop deck. And why we opted for the sprinkler system versus a outside staircase is because that's the number one point of break-ins. Because if somebody wants to break into your house and they go up these steps, nobody's going to see them on the top of your roof. So for safety reasons, if you're ever looking to do a rooftop deck, you have to choose, go for the sprinkler system. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but again, it will be offset by the insurance over time. Exterior, you're going to do whatever siding choices that you're going to do, whether that's brick, stucco, stone. You're going to put of course, the porch and the deck at that time. So this is just an example of sprinkler in the rough-in phase with spray and foam insulation. There's those two homes that we built side by side with the front porch. So now you're going to do the insulation. I'm a big fan of the spray foam insulation. I think that's the better route to go. And then install your drywall. And if you have a flat roof, on the ceiling on the top floor, you're going to have to spray. But drywall, so here you can see that the top is spray foam there. And if you're looking to, if you're not doing a flat roof, flat roofs, I would recommend against them unless you are going to do a rooftop deck, but flat roofs are more likely to leak over time. But if you're doing a pitched roof, I highly recommend vaulting your ceilings on your top level. Because of what the city on this particular home that we built, they only allow you to build a home so big. And so with the roof peaks, we were at the top of what we could build. But since we have high ceilings on the main level, the top level would have only had 8-foot ceilings if we didn't vault. So now this here is only 8 feet. Now when you go in that room, just makes the room feel a lot more luxurious, more custom, and it's not that much more expensive to do if you plan this early on in the construction process. So if you're doing a pitched roof, I highly recommend vaulting. You're going to prime the walls and paint the closets. Primer, believe it or not, will actually help prevent nicks. It actually strengthens the drywall a little bit, so that's why you want to prime the walls. And then this is when you're going to start tiling the bathrooms and the floors. And then you're going to have the shower glass guy come in and measure the shower glass. This is usually the very last thing that happens on our construction projects, but they can come in and measure because it's going to, most of the time, it's going to be a custom glass piece for the frameless showers that we're doing. Hardwood, you want it to be delivered to the house at least 7 days before it's ever installed. One big thing I would highly recommend if you're when you're doing the flooring is get it in sooner than later, and then don't just stack it all in one area of the house, because then the flooring doesn't have time to dry out. And you also need to have the heating on or the air conditioning on if it's the summer. This is extremely important. It needs to acclimate to the house like somebody's living there. So spread it around the house, and that way, because what can happen, and I've gone into homes where I've seen this, they install it when so even having the humidifier on the furnace is important, because what may happen, let's say in the summertime, it's humid, the flooring may actually expand, and then you get wavy floors. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but that's because they didn't let the flooring acclimate before it was installed. So this is an extremely important step. The longer the better. I have in here 7 days. I would recommend 2 weeks and spread it out among the house. This is when you're going to do your stairs. You definitely want to schedule your staircase specialty contractor out at least a month. All of our we do beautiful staircases. These guys, there's not many contractors that do stairs. Framing contractors typically don't do stairs. They're a very specialized contractor, and so these guys are extremely busy. So make sure you get them scheduled early in on the process. And while we're on the subject, I didn't talk about this earlier, but when you're looking to, we talked about keeping on budget and how that's extremely important. Time is just as important as your budget. So whenever we look at a project, we have a huge calendar, and we use software to help manage it, but we have every trade, when they're going to be there. If you're in the city of Chicago, when we actually order our inspections 3 weeks to 6 weeks before the actual inspection happens. Because what happens is you may have the work done, and then the inspector can't get out there for 4 weeks. This delays the project, and then it also helps us keep all of the subs, we keep their feet to the fire to make sure that everything gets done in a timely manner, because we say you're not going to get paid until this passes inspection, and our inspection is ordered on this particular date. So this is how we keep everybody on time to make sure that the project is done in the timeline that you originally planned. At this point, there's an option to stain and finish the floors. You're going to cover the floors when you do that. And then this is when the kitchen cabinets, vanities, wet bar, anything you have. Once the cabinets are installed, that's when they actually come out to measure. And then you install the backsplash. One thing I highly recommend is if you're installing a granite or quartz, a lot of times they give you like a 3-inch backsplash with the granite or the quartz. Remove that and let the backsplash run all the way from the counter up to the cabinet. It's just a much more custom look than when it's done above the backsplash that they provide you. It just looks cheap in my opinion. And then your doors and trim are going to get installed. And then again, you have the option to stain and finish the floors. At this time, you install the glass shower. Painting the house, you want to caulk the trim. Again, something to keep in mind is you want to have a humidifier installed, because a lot of times I've seen where caulking is done and then you start seeing cracking because the house dries out and there's not a lot of airflow in there. So having a humidifier in the house can help prevent some of that cracking that I've seen in caulking sometimes. Then you're going to do all the end finishes, so your plumbing. So this is going to be actually when the kitchen faucet goes in, your faucets in each of the bathrooms, your actual shower head, the body jets. They're going to each of those, all the accessories and the hardware and the pulls on the cabinets, and then the closet shelving, whether you do custom or wire. The outside, this is you want to save this for the very, very, very end because heavy equipment is going in and out of the project, so you never want to do landscaping until the house is done. That's why sometimes if you go into a development where they're building a lot of homes, a lot of those homes look terrible because it's purposely, because if they did the landscaping right away, it's going to get ruined. So landscaping is something to do once everything else is really done. Touching up the cabinets, most cabinet companies will give you a little touch-up kits and that sort of thing. We do our very, very best to make sure that there's the splash when they're refinishing the flooring and that sort of thing doesn't get on the cabinets, and that sort of, there always will be a tiny little bit, you know, the contractor may scuff up a cabinet or something like that. We try to do our very best to ensure that that doesn't happen, but you can touch up the cabinets if any of that is done. And then of course any touch-up paint, you're going to do the final inspection. That's a different inspection from everything else from the village or city. And then the final cleaning, and then final walkthrough. The final walkthrough with your builder, you're going to blue tape everything that you see. Before we ever have that happen, at least for us, we're blue taping it ourselves, and then the homeowner may catch some things we don't catch as well. And then that's when we do that as well, and you want to do that before you move in. And that's one of our bathrooms we've done. Any questions? Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot to it, but thank you.